morning, everybody. Welcome to the Kerfuffle Panel show today. This is the property version of Avengers Assemble, Thought Leaders Assemble. I have with me Vanessa Warwick of Property Tribes. How the devil are you, Vanessa? You okay?
I'm great, thank you.
You've already been feeding the trolls this morning. That's very naughty. We'll get onto that in a minute. Ian White, you've gone a bit caps lock crazy there, as I'd expect.
I didn't do it.
Brexit is over. Forget it. Stop. Give it up. How are you? You all right?
I'm very good, thank you, and good morning, Simon, and to the rest of the panel.
Excellent.
Morning, mate.
All right, that's a bit presumptuous, Chris. Just so you think I'm coming, I'm going to go to Russell now. Russell, a show about trolls. This just appealed to you, did it?
Yeah, well, look, you kind of forced me to come on, and look, I'm happy to talk about my friends that seem to revel in me, really. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Well, I've got your payment here, all properly created cash for you. So
£12, are they?
In the normal place. And then last, and of course not least, the inevitable, that's not even a word, Mr. Watkins. How are you, Chris? Property Wolverine.
Very well, thank you, Simon. And I was actually waving to my friend Ian, not putting my hand up, wanting to go.
You know how this works in the digital world, do you? Yeah. Enjoy yourself. I know you're excited.
Get on with it. Come on.
Right, we are going to kick off. We're going to spend the next 45 minutes, an hour, just talking about, obviously, the concept of trolling, the experience of trolling, what we can do about trolling. Because it is a dynamic of modern life. Social media, it comes hand in hand with that. One thing I'm going to just kick off with straight away is that I believe the news has actually just broke, and I promise I don't do this. I don't control the industry to this degree that I can create these sort of stories. But the news has just broken, I believe, out to the members that Mr. Nathan Emerson has just taken over the interim head spot at Baltimore, and of course that's particularly relevant because they have been getting a bit of a bashing on the normal places. And what I want to do, we'll come back to we'll loop around this later on because I want to look at obviously where the line is drawn. Is that constructive criticism, or was a lot of that was that trolling, and what was the difference there? From my own point of view, though, I want to say congratulations to Nathan. I absolutely think he's the right man for the job, and I think that is a welcome breath of fresh air as well. So I'm looking with a lot of interest to see that. They need stability, and that's the man to do it. Of course, if he fails, I'll retract that and we'll edit this off the start of the video. But well done, Nathan, anyway. And I know many of you will feel the same way.
I do.
Everyone who approves, put their hands up, and then that leaves Russell. That's very unkind, and I've got to make sure I don't fall into that digital bullying, because not that I believe you could bully Russell anyway. Right, what is a troll? I'm going to come back to this because I think when I first came to the concept of trolls, it was kind of this. He's absolutely famous, Ken M. He's worth having a look at over here. If we're looking at this just to talk about on something as bland as a potato recipe here, Ken M, famous in the troll world. Also, you get more vitamin if you eat the shell. Somebody responding quite right. It's called the skin. Potatoes have skins. Ken, technically a shell because potatoes are in the peanut family. Matt comes back. No, Ken, you need to stop smoking whatever you're smoking there, buddy. Ken M destroys the conversation, as so often happens. Then how come potato is Latin for king of the peanuts? Now, that was an excuse to get that in there. But basically, trolls aren't all bad. I think this is the first thing. And I want to understand to you guys, what is a troll? Can we kick off with you, Vanessa, if that's okay?
Sure. Well, everybody will have their own version of what constitutes a troll. But, I've had 15 years experience of social media. And prior to that, I was obviously TV presenter. So I was trolled long before social media existed. So yes, 30 odd years I've got of experience of this. So in my opinion, a troll is somebody that seeks to cause harm, cause mischief, discredit, cast aspersions, muddy the waters, derail conversations, and they like to evoke, a very kind of emotional response in other people. So they're not there to learn. They're not there to bring clarity to something that they may have confusion over. They are there to cause mischief and harm, and that is their sole objective.
Now, you've just described half of my friends with that, with that description there. But it is, I think that harm is the key one, isn't it? It's about, you can actually, with your friends, say some pretty raw to the bone comments, can't you? But that comes from a feeling normally of love or friendship there. It's when you're going out deliberately with the intention of harming them, feeling like personally, or just putting, Trump's famous phrase, fake news out there. That seems to me is like just to set the stall early. That sounds like quite a sensible one, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And trolls very often have a personal agenda. They're not actually interested in really what the debate is. They want to attack the person's position in the debate and the person themselves. So trolling very much comes, in my opinion, from a personal space where somebody doesn't like you, or they've got the wrong idea about you, or they don't understand you, or they've got some other issue with you, but they're not willing to learn and try and get to the bottom of the matter. They're just there to cause a lot of disruption and harm and upset.
Ian, what about yourself? The whale has thick skin, famously as a creature, but Ian White, I don't know if anything bothers you. Does it bother you? What again constitutes a troll to you?
I think Vanessa's put it as succinctly as you can. I think it's the intent to harm. The analogy you just put up about the king of the peanuts, I think, is just a bit of harmful conversation between two people. I can't see any trolling as such. Where I think the only thing I would add to what Vanessa has said is where also complete misinformation is used within the banter or conversation that flows, where people are literally making up facts on the hoof, or deliberately exaggerating things for a fact that are unfounded and untrue. But I think a lot of people we categorise into trolls aren't trolls. I think it's just filling the day, having a bit of fun and blah blah blah. But when it gets personal, and when it's inaccurate, and when it's wrong, and when it could be in the real world could be legally challenged, then I think it's crossed the line of where you shouldn't go.
And I think that's true, isn't it? We can sometimes be a bit lazy in just accusing people of being a troll, and actually they can be quite rightly just disagreeing with your point of view. And I think that's one of the first things that people have jumped up when they saw this discussion was taking place.
Yeah, I think everyone's entitled to an opinion. I think everyone's entitled to a view. I just think keep it within the realms of, if you are genuinely seeking to harm somebody from a personal agenda perspective, which is what Vanessa was saying, rather than have an objective view on the topic. I think some people's view is blinded by the hate for the person who wrote it, rather than actually the topic itself. The topic might be, stamp duty, for example, or Nathan being announced as the, if you hate property, Mark.
Yeah,
Nathan gets caught up in the conversation. Well, it's nothing to do with that. Is Nathan the right man to do the job, and what does he need to do to take it forward? But so, and trolls, generally speaking, they're the ones that fit the category that we're describing. Let's be honest, they're pretty pointless people. I mean, they don't really. I don't know if they really get listened to. I mean, does any? I mean, you say I'm thick-skinned, but does anybody care about these people?
Oh, I know for a fact they do. And famously, a lot of corporates didn't go on social media in the early days because they didn't know how to respond, even before it was called trolling. Negative, obviously, feedback there. I know for a fact a multi-billion-pound tech company in this space as palpitations about putting stories out on the likes of Pi and EOT, because just a small number of that background noise can be so negative there. So it definitely, again, whether they're overreacting or not is another question, and I think that's perfectly fair. Chris, what about yourself? You've gone on record about this, and I think a wonderful bit of advice I saw you give to one of your agents, Zoe. from Belvoir, but Zoe Bywater, hello Zoe, was talking about, you know, you haven't made it until you've got a troll.
I can't really add anything to what Vanessa's. I think what Vanessa put what a definition of a troll is, and I really can't add anything else to what Vanessa said. I think really what you've got to work out is the reason why they're doing it, and I'm sure we're going to come on to how to deal with it. I know all of us have had some trolls and some haters, and I think most people watching this wants to know what. Okay, there's lots of people out there that are not posting because they're worried about what people will say. Yeah. And then there's people out there who are posting, who are getting comments, and how to deal with it. And I must admit, over the years, I mean, there's come to a point now, and I'm sure Russell might say the same, but I actually look forward to receiving negative comments.
Do you really? Is it, or is that one of those things where you say it out loud and then you get a little tear in your eye when you read it? So there's been some trolls out there that have done a lot nastier things to a lot of worse, but so far, you know, I think we as human beings, we crave social acceptance, don't we? As human beings, that's why, you know, it's a pecking order in our tribe, and we like to be liked by other people. So what we do is we put feedback and positivity on a pedestal, you know, because whenever someone says something nice about us, it's wonderful. That's why we love social media. That's why we love likes and comments. That's why we get addicted to likes and comments. The downside to that is that when we put that feedback on a pedestal, when somebody says something nasty about us, because we've put feedback on a pedestal, the negative one is also put on a pedestal. Yeah. And one thing that, and again, I don't want to get slightly ahead of myself, but one thing is this: I'm sure everyone around this gets a lot of smoke blown up their asses. The art is not to let that go to your head. So when somebody says something nasty about you, you say, well, okay, they're entitled to their opinion. I actually feel sorry for them that they're in such a bad place that they are able to take time and effort out of their day. And I think it's just a projection of their hate from within inside, and they're putting it onto someone else. And I'm sure we'll come on to how we deal with it. But that's not working for me, Chris. So I remember they always feel sorry for the bullies at school. And as I was being carried 6 foot tall by my pants being debagged, I remember thinking, oh yeah, it's them who I should feel sorry for.
Okay, but hold on a second. They're the ones that are now probably working in a fish and chip shop, earning £6 an hour, and you're a multimillionaire living the life of right. Let's be honest, Simon, you're spending it like it's going out of fashion. You must have spent all your money by now.
Yeah, okay, yeah, but that was getting a bit Alan Partridge, by the way. Needless to say, I had the last laugh.
I mean, again, let's say this a little bit later. I mean, let Russell have a say, because I mean, he's a fictional sort of guy.
I was saving Russell to last. So, Russell, admit it, you love it, don't you? You pen those articles, and I picture you grinning away as you know the rise you're going to get. Or is there a secret need of you? Is that a digital? Are you looking for a digital hug there? Talk us through the mindset of Mr. Quirk.
So look, I've been commented upon, I suppose, since probably back till the days of 2011, 2012, when I set up eMoon, and I was, you know, purposely contentious in terms of the model versus the traditional estate agency model. So, you know, I'm the first to admit that I courted controversy to get noticed. So I absolutely did. Is it therefore a surprise that after the demise of eMove at the end of 2018, I should get a bit of stick? No, of course not. And look, I was going to say I deserve it, but my view is fair game. The difference is that people can have opinion, and we should not seek on this panel or anywhere else to try and stop people having an opinion in this industry. But there's a big difference between someone that is visible, that puts their name to something and says, I disagree with that, or I think such and such is a tosser, or I don't think so-and-so should be running that business. That's opinion. There's a big difference between that and somebody that, first of all, hides behind the cloak of anonymity. You know, they become, you know, I don't know, corporate boy 127 or whatever, but then also spouts on a very regular basis, and this is the key, a very regular basis, bile and malice, right? So it's what Mark De Silva at Property Industry Eye laughs about when I do write an article. He says, why do they keep playing the man and not the ball? He said, you write some stuff that you said, you know, jokingly, he said, sometimes even makes sense. He said, but people want to have a go at you because you're the kind of antichrist of the industry, the pantomime villain, because you slagged off traditional estate agents for so long, which of course I did. So, you know, veil of anonymity, malice and bile. And to a kind of point that's been made, I suppose, there's a difference between having an opinion based on reality, based on data, based on research, based on the fact that, you know, I wrote a piece this week about Foxtons and Douglas and Gordon. I said, neither Foxtons or Douglas and Gordon make any money. What the hell is this marriage all about? Now, that's not me being nasty. It's a fact. They don't make money. So why are they doing this merger? It just compounds their problem. But there's but the difference is those that also spout mistruths. I mean, the stuff that's been said about me in Estate Agency Today's comments and Property Industry Eye around, you know, defrauding investors and being this and being that and mentioning my family and so on. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting. But that's the difference. That's the difference. It's not, trolling is personal, opinion is not. But to the point, does it bother me? I honestly couldn't give a shit. I mean, genuinely. Because I know that those trolls, the majority of them are hiding behind the curtains. They would never face me or Vanessa or Chris or Ian in any face-to-face scenario, right? Because they'd be ritually humiliated just on intellect. Most of them are kind of, I don't know, look, dare I venture, you know, kind of only childs from single-parent families that were bullied at school. And now they're trying to get their own back on people like us, but without saying who they really are.
That sounds like an FBI profile. I like the way you're building towards that. Ian, you had your hands up there.
Yeah, I'm just slightly out of kilter with that in the fact that I agree with about 80% of that. But I personally would, if it was somebody working under a pseudonym, you know, you called me thick-skinned jokingly aside before we came on air, I think, but I really wouldn't take any offence from somebody that was hiding behind a pseudonym, because it just would be water off a duck's back, no matter what they said, how personal, how degrading.
People do, Ian, and that's the point, isn't it? A lot of people, and this is the real danger with it, a lot of people stop being themselves on social because they pull back from it, because when they put themselves out there, they've had anonymised comments, and I can see Chris nodding. Chris will be telling you, you've got to get past that, because otherwise you're not giving your best version of you, are you?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of me, my feelings, and I would imagine others, because I can only think for myself and assume, I'm much more likely to stop and think about the effects on me of somebody that was making a comment using their real name. I would have to stop and think and take more care about my next action if I was being trolled by somebody that was real, rather than somebody. But I mean, I've not really ever been trolled, really. I mean, apart from one article that I know of. It's not something I've particularly suffered with or feel I've suffered from. I mean,
because you're so arrogant, you don't pay any attention. No,
but I also wanted to take. I don't think these people are unintelligent. I don't think they are necessarily people. I think they might have some warped reasons for doing things, but you know, some of them are quite eloquently written. I mean, their English language is certainly a whole lot better than mine. So I'm not entirely sure that just because we don't like what they're doing, calling them unintelligent and everything else, they've clearly got hang-ups, the ones that get personal and vile and nasty and unpleasant. They've clearly got reasons. But you know what? I think they do it to have an interaction, to fill their day. I think there's something happening in their life that's probably not very good. But I'm not so sure unintelligent's the right thing, because some of them are very eloquent in their comebacks. They're pretty. Let's be
honest.
I'd love to jump in here, guys, because trolling is an activity. It's a behaviour. It is perfectly legitimate for somebody to comment behind a anonymous profile if they are not undertaking trolling activity. If they want to have an opinion or make a comment and they substantiate that comment, and this is the really, really big thing we need to get across in this debate, is that substantiated evidenced commentary is not trolling. It is making a legitimate challenge to somebody. Now, that coming on and saying something, the things that Russell's had said to him, those are now bordering into the realms of defamation, which is a civil law issue. And then
don't border it, they go over it. Believe me.
Well, okay, they go over it. To be honest, I haven't seen that. So I'm just commenting generally. But what I'm saying is, then you've got malicious communications, harassment, bullying. They are all criminal activities.
Yeah.
This is what trolls do. they are operating in these kind of areas. Now, if an anonymous profile comes on and makes a legitimate comment, provides substantiation of that comment, they are not a troll. They are somebody that is offering a legitimate challenge. And that is what robust and healthy debate is all about. So focusing on saying anonymous people, you know, are trolls or whatever, they are if they're undertaking trolling activity, which is unsubstantiated commentary, but they're not if they're behaving correctly. And to be honest, Russell, if you're experiencing those kind of horrific things that you've mentioned, that is down to poor site moderation. If there was really robust site moderation, most trolls would fail on the T's and C's and their comments would get deleted. So
therein lies another issue, though, which is that the publishers, of course, like it. Now, I'm not suggesting that property industry, estate agent today or negotiator encourage it. But of course, look, one of the reasons that property industry, I like me writing stuff every 2 weeks is because it gets comments, of course. So, you know, I agree with you. It is up to them to moderate. But the other point I was going to make is that when we talk about the difference between anonymous opinion and anonymous trolling, we also know that 99% of the vile, malicious, horrible comments that are made by anonymous people, right? So the majority of the illegal trolling, if you want to call it that, are made by anonymous people, because anonymous people say things that they wouldn't do if they put their name to it.
Yeah. But then, as rightly say, everyone's
still trolling behaviour. It's the behaviour that's the trolling. Because if they did put their name to it and it was substantiated commentary, it wouldn't be trolling. There is nothing wrong in substantiated commentary. I do not mind anybody challenging me on anything that I say or do. In fact, I welcome it because it allows me to bring clarification to an issue or to set the record straight. I don't have a problem with that. What I have... Sorry.
I mean, I don't think anybody has a problem with substantiated comments and pushback, whether it's anonymous or not. I don't think anybody has a problem with that. I think it's when you see, say, for example, the property market thing is a classic example. I read an article the other day where a troll, I would class it as a troll, indicated that the two people that left were on £250,000 a year. That's completely unsubstantiated, totally untrue. I can't remember whether it was an anonymous comment or not, but that's the sort of thing we're talking about. It doesn't matter whether it's anonymous or not. It's the unsubstantiated. But the problem is, and the reason the anonymous thing gets a bad press is because the majority of the reason to be anonymous for a lot of people is so they can spout unsubstantiated facts and bile and the nastiness. Exactly. Most people, where you put your name to it, when you put your name to it,
if it's stuck against your name, you just look silly, don't you, bringing it up the very next time, throwing it out there. But by having that anonymity, you can keep throwing stuff at the wall and keeping the story going, can't you?
Yeah, and I'm with Vanessa. I don't think we should sanction. I don't think we should have any sort of, freedom of speech result, take it out. Just the moderators should look at it and say, right, that's not substantiated. I'm taking it down, and tell the person that made the comment why. Yep. Behaviours will change. I think the trolling on property industry in particular has got to such a point where the article is the thing is pointless reading. And I don't think they do now want I think they want comment, and I think they want debate, and I think they would like people to genuinely, openly discuss the topic of the day. But in reality, they've now got people not willing to give them news stories through fear of the regular crew that just pick holes with unsubstantiated unpleasantness, because that's what they do. That's their behaviour.
Yeah, Chris, go on. Thanks, Ian.
Russell, do you engage with these people on property industry when they
Never, ever, ever. I'll be honest, I haven't read the comments on Property Industry for probably 2 years. Seriously, I just don't read them because they're pointless, and because I'd just disappear down a rabbit hole. When eMove went into administration at the end of 2018, I did have calls to speak to Ros Renshaw in the next few days because some of the comments on the articles about eMove were disgusting. I mean, they were, I'd apparently run off with bag loads of cash and so on. So it was absolutely across and over the line of defamation, completely unsubstantiated, completely untrue, malicious, and would damage my reputation. Although some would argue that it was kind of, shredded anyway, but would further damage my reputation. But I've taken a kind of vow since then that I don't bother to read the comments, except when someone brings a comment to my attention. So someone I know who says, someone's just said you're having an affair, or someone's just said that you're a thief or a paedophile, then of course, then I take issue with it. And as I've done with a couple of people on LinkedIn, actually, I've sent them private messages and said, look, happy if you can substantiate your incorrect and malicious allegation. But if you can't, lawyers will be instructed in the morning, because of course I know who you are. So, you know, I only act in certain extreme situations. I certainly don't spend time reading the comments.
Has anyone had to go to that degree of actually going to legals then? You mentioned there, Russell, you have had to actually go there. So
yeah, a couple of times.
Yeah, but that's defamation. That's a different thing. And you need to understand that the publisher carries the risk of the legal risk of defamation, not the person who wrote it. So therefore you go to the publisher and you ask them to remove the comment before you even think about launching legal proceedings. There's massive pre-action protocols to go through before you even get in a defamation case into a court. And the first thing to do is to contact the publisher, explain why it's defamation, and ask them to remove it. And if people did that, or community reported trolling action to the moderator or the admins, there'd be a lot less of this kind of behavior about. So we all can play a part in cleaning up trolling activity by reporting it to the moderator. If we see bullying or harassment or anything that's happening to somebody else, report it to the moderator. So, you know, I think actually one of the traits of a troll is they run what I call a hand grenade. They come into a community, they post something extremely inflammatory, and then they disappear and they never come and face any challenges they have. I think that's one of the traits of a troll, to be honest. You know, if you've produced legitimate comments, then you should be able to have a reasoned debate about what you've said. Now, if it borders into trolling, defamation, harassment, whatever, then report it to the moderator. And it's important that we do this because a lot of people will not actually comment on certain sites, which I won't name, but because there is no good moderation there. And I myself, who've had a lot of issues with trolling, there's certain places I won't go because I know that the moderation is so poor and I will be attacked. So we all need to, you know, play a part in cleaning up where we see trolling, and moderators need to act responsibly.
So Vanessa, in the same way that if you saw a poorly lit street in a town or something, you wouldn't go down there. That's the same sort of behaviour you should have on the internet as well. If it's disreputable place, just give it a wide berth. Yeah.
Well, it depends really. You know, I've had, as I said, I've had a huge amount of trolling. You know, when I first came onto Property Industry Eye, I received a lot of trolling. But to be honest, I expected that. I was new, nobody knew who I was. You know, if you're going to put your head above the parapet, this is, and you're in the public domain, then this is par for the course. And you should expect it.
I find that really disturbing, actually, and just in a depressing way that you went into that eyes open, that you were expecting to get trolled. You know, it's not like you're out there saying, you know, massively contentious things, is there? So that does worry me more so.
Well, it's more that, you know, you can liken an online community to an offline community. When you first walk into a pub, all the regulars are in there. They all know each other. They look around and there's somebody new just come through the door. Their immediate human behavior is to go, oh, what's that person? Who are they? What's their game? What's they're all about? Why they've come in here? So, you know, it's just natural behavior. Everything that you can compare online, you know, it happens in the offline world as well. So, but then again, we go back to, you know, when things actually step over the mark and do become trolling or defamation or bullying or harassment or any of these other things that often, unfortunately, go hand in hand.
Yeah. Cool. Let's take a couple of comments. So we've got David Mintz getting the first legal lawsuit of the day there with Mr. Watkins. We've got Zoe loving Mincy, who's not on the show. Christian Stott, you're the reason we're listening. Hope he's saying that to us all. Boo down with David Mintz. No, down with Zoe's a fan of yours. There you are, Russell, the first one there. We've got and then a bit more verbose one here. In internet slang, a troll is a person who starts flame wars or intentionally upsets people on the internet. Both the noun and the verb forms of troll are associated with internet discourse. However, the word has also been used more widely. More media attention in recent years has equated trolling with online harassment, aka Russell Quote. I'm not sure whether they're saying that's you harassing them, Russell, but we'll come back to there. And then you said, or did I just troll, or was that my opinion that I'm allowed? But I see what you did there, anonymous Facebook user. Charlie, you can't say you don't give a shit about trolls and then proceed to insult them. It makes you sound like you do care.
How are those two not connected? I don't care what they say. It's absolutely up to me if I decide to insult them, because I think it's look, maybe it's my mechanism, but you know, it's also a question of having a sense of humour, Charlie Landin. So they all allow that. So just because I say they don't affect me, look, trust me, I do not read them, and I certainly don't sit there awake at night worrying about what they say, unless they are way over the line. But of course I can insult them. It's my sense of humour. Those two things are not connected at all.
Yeah, I've been
they are connected, because personal insults are also the trait of a troll. What trolls do is they make ad hominem comments.
My mechanism to take the piss out of a troll doesn't mean I'm affected by them. Those two things are not connected.
Well, don't take the piss out of them then. Don't insult them, because that's you trolling them back, and that gets nowhere. Your online brand is how you respond online to other people. So
what you're saying is that if I'm offended by them or not, I shouldn't have any right to say anything back. Of course I should, because that's my opinion. I'm not insulted.
I didn't say that at all.
I think Russell,
I didn't say that at all. I said what I said was you can respond, but you respond in a professional manner, and you ask them to substantiate their comment, and ask them, you know, where they're getting all this nonsense from. But you don't insult them back, because that's you trolling them.
I'd be interested in just giving a bit of a view on this. I think it's fair to say, if you do bite back with personal insults or going down that road, it is genuinely. I appreciate you might be an unusual character, Russell, but it is genuinely because someone has nipped at some conscience somewhere. But in the same breath, I don't think it's for anybody to tell anybody what they should and shouldn't say, or how they should and shouldn't respond to a troll, because I think that's a very personal decision to make. Generally speaking, the best advice is probably to do nothing. But if you want to bite back with a bit of bile yourself, fine. If you want to bite back with please substantiate it, fine. If you want to bite back with silence, fine. But it is probably slightly disingenuous, Russell, to say that when you immediately personally insult the person that's trolled you, that it's not based on the fact that they've got under your skin a bit. That's probably not quite right.
I never respond to a troll, ever, right? What I'm saying is, in a conversation like this, where we're talking about trolls, my sense of humour kicks in, and of course I will make a generic piss-taking comment about them. That's a completely different thing to responding to an individual troll.
Correctly, yeah, I hear you. I
never do.
I wouldn't want anybody telling me how I can respond. If I choose to respond saying "bugger off, you dickhead," or
which I never do. Don't misunderstand what I said. I didn't mean that.
Yeah,
neither am I telling anybody how to respond. I think we're talking about best practice here. I'm not telling anybody how to respond. That is your privilege. I'm talking about best practice here, and how people can clean up these kind of robust debates and stop trolls in their tracks, because it's easy to do.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Wait a minute, let's have Chris. He's wet. He either needs the toilet or he wants to say something.
I think the best way is to engage with them, but with respect, acknowledge their point of view and start a conversation. They'll gain respect for your willingness to hear them.
Well, Chris, one of the comments that's just come in here are some of you guilty of trolling on your personal social media profiles? Okay. I like a healthy debate, dare I say it, and what's wrong with having a bit of what is loosely termed banter, and I appreciate that.
Okay, there goes. So if someone says that, then they might be right. You listen to their point of view, and you respond back to them. Now, Russell says he doesn't respond back. That's his choice, and good for him. You don't necessarily have to respond back with a reply on that thread on Property Industry Eye. Some of us use social media, and we can reply back with our own video to a larger audience. You're not going to persuade that one person who is who's got it into their head that they hate you or despise you. I mean, Russell, you're the Antichrist to some people, and whether you could turn listings out of gold or out of lead into gold, they're still going to hate the guts out of you. That's just you chose to put your head above the parapet. It's like you, Whaley. Some of the industry think you're the world's biggest prat, and some of the industry, thank God, most of it, think you're the best thing since sliced bread and you're a breath of fresh air. If we try and please all the people all the time, we won't please anyone. And what I'm suggesting is with my haters and trollers is not to ignore them, but to engage with them and actually put the comment back. And I'm not trying to persuade them that they're wrong and I'm right. What I'm more interested in is the hundreds of people who are just looking and saying, well, at least he's replying back to him and not taking it sat down. I don't know. I might be wrong. I don't know. That's just
the only thing you're wrong about is that I have detractors. That's outrageous. And that's your final strike there. Obviously, what you say is incredibly clear and concise as ever. We've got Tanya joining us from Australia here. So hi, Tanya. Trolling, I experience this online, social media, and on graffiti on my cell boards, and I always think of this. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Always the Aussies can deliver a line, can't they? These people are angry about our success, and hence why they troll. That's very true. And again, big fans out there. Charlie's again shouting the Vanessa one there. And what have we got here? We got great point, read pointlessness. Hi. Okay, Christian, that's up to you to say there. What about columnists like Quirk trolling the industry through their opinion pieces? What he said and how he said certain things about people and products such as Robert May and Rummage 4 had only one intention, to inflict damage. Do you want to deal with that one? Because again, you're not anonymised, are you? You're having an opinion there, aren't you, Russell, on that one?
It goes back to my earlier point about, what is a troll? We could all kind of slightly disagree about the definition, but, if we take out banter and opinion from everything that is written anywhere, this is going to be a pretty damn bland world, isn't it? Right. So if someone like a Piers Morgan or a Jeremy Clarkson writes, Boris Johnson is a very good example, writes opinion that is wrapped around some sarcasm and some humour, that's actually also what is known as entertainment, right? Which is what most people like and enjoy. And if that can be wrapped around something that is, interesting, a bit of thought leadership or whatever, I think there's nothing wrong with that. The comment I made about Rummage 4 was in an article I wrote about 4 or 5 months ago, I think, about certain businesses that I thought were going to be of high profile for one reason or another in the coming year. And I jokingly mentioned Rummage 4 on the basis that they've taken 4 years to launch a product that they still haven't launched, that it needed not a CEO, but a good vet to put it down, right? So that's what I would call banter. I've done it once, not incessantly, not consistently, not maliciously, not anonymously. It is sarcasm, humour, and banter. If someone takes that as something that is offensive and that shouldn't be allowed to be said, then it says more about that person, I think. It is not trolling. Trolling, again, just to go back, is incessant malice, generally but not always, behind the veil of anonymity.
I mean, is there a right not to be offended? Or
No.
is freedom of speech must trump individual feelings of distress?
I don't know. So, yeah.
I mean, if you're going to have an opinion, and part of what you said there, with all due respect, you were talking more about clickbaiting, which is another entirely different topic. But if you are going to have an opinion and you are going to say borderline defamatory things about people, which some of the comment you referred to, I regard as that, to be quite frank, then you should be able to defend that opinion. But earlier in this debate, you said that you don't listen to any comments on your articles, but what you do is you go back on Twitter and you say, oh, I've really fired them up on Property Industry Eye, and I've really been relishing in it. And that is what's known as a Mott and Bailey argument. You come out of your Mott, you throw a grenade, and then you run back to your Bailey where you feel comfortable, and you get all your friends around you and all the people that have the same cognitive biases as you, and then you make yourself feel better about what you've done. And this is very important point. If you're going to have an opinion, then that's fine. And nobody's, saying that there shouldn't be free speech and opinion. But if you're going to have an opinion, at least be able to back it up, have reasoned debate, not just run off and leave people in your way who have somehow been hurt by it.
Yeah, I don't know where you get running off from. Look, I'm on this panel, for God's sake, so I'm hardly running anywhere. And
You said earlier that you don't comment on property industry.
Let me just have my say, Vanessa, just had your say. So I've challenged countless people on Property Industry Eye, Twitter and LinkedIn to face-to-face debates, either literally face-to-face in a pub or on a forum like this or on a stage. I don't run from any of my opinions. I think I'm allowed to have an opinion, and I'm allowed to have that around humour and banter. If I make a comment that I've written something on Property Industry Eye and by 9 a.m. it's already had 30 comments, that's not incitement. I'm being playful. And Vanessa, with the greatest respect, I think, you know, injecting a little bit of humour into the proceedings sometimes keeps us all sane, frankly. This is not a liberal, yogurt knitting kind of, you know, nice fluffy world where we should all kind of behave ourselves entirely beyond the reaches of anything that might offend anybody. And the fact that I write stuff and I kind of quite like the fact that it gets some attention and I'm not bothered by it and I can take the piss out of it is I think is how most people think, really. And to be, you know, utterly vanilla and inoffensive is completely unrealistic and impractical.
You missaid what I said then, because I didn't actually say that. I said if you are going to have an opinion, then at least being able to come back and debate that opinion and provide evidence for how you reach that opinion.
And if Robert May had reached out to me and said, you know, do you honestly think that launching a business over 4 years and not getting it to launch is something that's worthy of criticism? I would say yes, I do. I do think that in the context of a debate around startups, innovation, property businesses generally, I do think it's worthy of a comment. And if Robert wants to debate it, I'm certainly not hiding anywhere, Vanessa.
Okay, let's have another show. Can we have
Russell, would you, but if someone made a decent comment on one of your articles on Property Industry Eye that wasn't a trolling reply, but was an actual genuine comment, if you're not looking at them, isn't that not making you look a little daft that you've made a comment and someone who's public said that, you know, my name is Mr. XYZ from XYZ agency and I disagree with you, could you come back? Because you're not reading those comments. Isn't that...
But the alternative, Chris, is for me to read every comment. And A, I've got better things to do than sit there all day reading pie comments, frankly. But also...
Dirty, though.
I know, but if someone wants to
to bits, but you can't have it both ways, mate.
No, I can. No, I can have it insofar as not sitting there being beholden to comments all day. But I'm quite visible, Chris, as you well know. So you can find me quite easily on LinkedIn, Twitter, Clubhouse, wherever you want. If someone wants to have a debate with me, I'm there to be debated with. Do I sit on Property Industry Eye trying to either critique negative comments or applaud positive ones? No, of course I don't, because I've got better things to do. But do I hide? Of course I don't. And I think it's preposterous for anybody to think that I do.
I'll give you that. At least you spit, you shoot from the hip, and if you're prepared to open up to a conversation, even though it might be on a different social media platform, I will.
Whale is a really good example. Simon, how many times do we have open toing and froing debates into the early morning? I mean, all the time.
All the time, and I can't remember once when you've never when you haven't failed to respond. You're quite right, and I can say, by the way, it is entirely up to, you know, if you don't want to read that in the way that movie stars often don't watch their own work for whatever reason, that's up to you. By the way, those people don't have to click on the Russell Quirk column week in, week out like they do. I think it's an absolute, it shares everything about this subject that whilst there was, I can see in your bottom right-hand corner there, Russell, you've got the picture of Rishi on the floor, and that story has already had about 10,000 clicks on Property Industry Eye this morning. But the one that's got engagement after engagement was Vanessa's post, obviously about this very panel, which is just, you know, it's like it's like just a fire, isn't it? It just goes off. So I think Russell is very different. Some of the arguments, they're contentious, but they can't be by definition trolling, can they? That has to, I think, be anonymised, and that's the point about what we're talking about here is. Let's have a couple of things. So we got a comment here from Property Searches. As ever with most group discussions, there's a person who completely understands the subject and has considerable depth of knowledge. If the community took on board what Vanessa said, the chat environments would be a more pleasant place to be with appropriate moderation and calling out by other users. And I think that's a perfectly reasonable position. What I would say is, though, that's the reason why there's many different platforms, isn't there? That's why some people love Twitter because of its Wild West nature, and then with others deviate towards gated communities like property tribes, or indeed, you know, going back to the likes of Facebook, where there is much more, there is much more of a content piece there to be had. I've got Lloyd here. The hypocrisy of somebody hosting this group, unbelievable. That's fine.
But that in itself is a trolling comment, because why not say who you think is the person that's being hypocritical to allow them to defend themselves? There's 4 panelists on this debate, and somebody's just thrown in a hand grenade. And that's a perfect example of trolling. So thank you to whoever did that. Why not come out and say who is the person that's hypocritical on this debate? Because it allows people to defend themselves. If you're really interested in learning what somebody's point of view is, then that person is going to be willing to interact with you and explain their position and have a reasoned debate with you. But if you're only here to create, comments like that,
I think the guy might be referring to I think he might be referring to the host, to be fair to Lloyd or whoever it was that made the comment.
Maybe that's my ego and narcissism taking over. But yes, I read that as me, as I said.
Somebody put an interesting comment on earlier about, have you ever trolled on your own social media accounts? It depends what your definition of trolling is. Certainly, I've never gone into hurt, defame, or say something inaccurate. But have I deliberately put something a little bit naughty in there to evoke, particularly around the football banter or political banter? Of course, I've put something in there to just sit back. Well, normally when I've got a bored hour in between whatever, and I just want to see who, which fools jump on it, but I don't say anything personal. But I might put a comment out there. So you could argue that we are hypocritical from Lloyd's perspective, because I've certainly never knowingly, deliberately set out to offend anybody or say anything dishonest or knowingly inaccurate or pretend I knew it was correct when it wasn't. But I have definitely made statements that are, unusual in order to get a response, either for a bit of fun or knowing actually sometimes, Simon, you'll be the first person to reply.
Well, I stalk you. Go on, Chris.
Okay, I think moving forward, most of the people watching this are agents, and they're afraid to start putting stuff out on their own social media platforms. Let's be honest, all of us in this platform are big enough and ugly enough. Obviously, apart from Vanessa, who's pretty as hell, but everyone else has got bloody hinds of a rhino. And I know, Vanessa, you can take it like a good one as well, bless, because you've got it with what you've been through with property tribes. But what can we do here to help the estate and letting agents out there who are afraid to use social media to get more business, that they're afraid to just post because they're worried about a troll? Because isn't it amazing how we ignore our nearest and dearest, but our lives are run by Sally 26 or Big Willie, whatever his name is, or someone Hill of what's name, who's someone who you never met, but it will affect it, because let's be honest, the power of social media is amazing to get your message out there. All of us in this room have put our head above the parapet and we're going to take the pot shots. But social media is so powerful for agents to get their message out there in a estate agency, but they're being held back by this fear. So how do we get over that?
Well, I would say the first thing is that to understand that attention is a commodity. So when people respond to something that you've put on social media, they are actually paying with their attention. So they had 1,000 things that they could have looked at and commented on, but they chose yours. What a privilege and an honor to you that they did that. So the first thing is to welcome any challenges to what you're doing, because it allows you to bring clarification to your proposition. And it may be that you have made a mistake somewhere down the line, or you have had an unhappy customer. Nothing wrong in that. Everybody makes mistakes. What happens is how you deal with those mistakes, and dealing with them in the public domain is actually laying down a trail that you are, a responsible business that deals with any concerns or complaints, and that you've been open and transparent about it. And what trolls absolutely hate and loathe is any form of transparency, because they don't deal in transparency. Everything they've done is done behind a veil of innuendo and non-substantiated commentary and this kind of thing. Trolls cannot exist in a transparent world. So if somebody gives a legitimate challenge, you answer them politely, say thank you for your comment, I've taken it on board, this is my response, blah, blah, blah. However, if it is a troll comment, then you should report it to the moderator and ask for it to be removed. Simple as that.
Does do the main two? I just can't remember having seen them. Do the main two estate agency today and property industry? I have the ability to report people.
I don't know, but I have written when I have been. I've had the odd. Mostly, I don't ask for the troll comments to be removed because anybody with half a brain can see it's a troll, and I actually want to be able to fact check the lies that they've told about me. So 90% of the time, I won't bother to get it removed because I respect that people have the intelligence to work out if somebody's a troll or not, and if they don't, then they're putting themselves into a silo somewhere else and they'll have to deal with that later. So that's my view on it.
Cool.
Vanessa,
yes, you can report it to Property Industry Eye.
Vanessa, if you don't mind me saying, you've been exceptional on Property Industry Eye. Just keep going, keep, basically bantering back, not batting it back. And it's made your stock price, your perception in the industry grow even more because you've been replying. So probably there are other people like myself, Russell, could probably learn from that potentially and reply back and just kill them with kindness and kill them with a structured answer saying, you're talking rubbish, substantiate it, or this is the truth. Because looking at your responses, you've been amazing.
You can't fight a mist. Somebody comes on and says, oh, X has been involved in a scam to do with property or something. First of all, notice that they don't even say what the scam is. That's a deliberate troll action, so you can't then go and Google that person's name and that business and see that actually, oh no, there's not a single negative comment about them on social media. So what trolls do is they come on and they try and put innuendo in there and try and disrupt and try and discredit and try and cast aspersions. And all I do when people do that to me is I fact check them. I ask them for the evidence. Where's the evidence that I said or did that? Now, maybe they might put some evidence up where maybe I did maybe do that. If so, then I need to be responsible for that myself. And I need to say, thank you very much for drawing that to my attention. I was actually having a really bad day that day, and I actually shouldn't have said that. And I appreciate you. I'm going to learn from that. So when you want to learn, there is no trolling. Trolls do not want to learn. They have no interest in getting to the truth whatsoever. None. Zero.
So let me just ask the question, because we've spoke about the anonymization seems to be the key. Is it the collateral damage of this wonderful social media platform that we have, or is the time now where social media is maturing enough that we should be getting rid of anonymity on things like Twitter and Property Industry Eye? Could I just get your opinion first, Ian, just in terms of whether you think that's the case?
I think it should be okay to post anonymously from all of us to be able to see that. But I think in order to have an anonymous account behind that, you should be known by the moderators to who you are, so that if you do something defamatory, there is a recourse. So I can understand why somebody might not want their name on a particular comment that is perfectly legitimate debate. It could be that you work for somebody, for example, and you want to get a message out there and I think that I don't think we should ever try and stop that, but I do think there should be something in the background that if you really do overstep the mark, there is some accountability for you in doing so, which I think would stop some of the nasty, unpleasant stuff around just the wrong facts. So I'm in favour of anonymity, but I think in the background there should be some checks and I don't think everyone should just be able to have an anonymous account and willy-nilly do it without anybody knowing who they are.
Russell, do you think that is, from your point of view, would your experience on the web be any different? Would it be improved? Is now the time for anonymity?
No, I think it does depend genuinely how much you care, and look, 99% of what apparently is written about me in comments, I genuinely don't care about unless it becomes something that's defamatory. So I think the same rules, if you like, the same standards apply to someone that says who they are versus someone that's anonymous. And of course, it's then down to the publisher how they deal with and react to someone that has defamed somebody. So I've had experience in the past where the publisher and look, we've seen this with Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram, the publisher then makes it very, very difficult for the aggrieved to get to the aggressor, and certainly when it comes to being able to launch any particular action. So I think, to Ian's point, really, if someone is anonymous but breaks the law, whether that's harassment or whether it's libel or whatever, there should be a mechanism that publisher has to allow that person, even anonymous, to be brought to task, of course, because
there is, Russell. It's called a Norwich Pharmacal order.
But most publishers, I'll tell you, I won't say who it was, but I had a debate with a platform many months ago now about some comments that were made, and their legal position, and whether they actually took legal advice or not, I don't know, but the editor's legal position was, because of course defamation laws changed in 2018-19, so they're now somewhat softer when it comes to publishing. His view was, it's just opinion, and if the opinion is based on something that is born of some kind of fact, and it is their opinion as a consequence, that particular editor said those comments will stand, even though they weren't true. So it's not as easy as
poor moderation. Then I'm sorry to say.
Maybe. I'm just saying that's a real world example of it's not very easy when it's someone anonymous saying you're a thief. It wasn't that, but as an example, you should then be able to go to the publisher and say, I want to know who that is because my lawyers are going to write to them tomorrow. And there's an obstruction in the process, despite what you say, Vanessa, in terms of what might be right or wrong in terms of the law, that prevents that. Because, of course, the publisher themselves don't want to be on the hook for being grasses because, as I say, many of them like the comments or they like the volume of the comments because, I remember a particular Telegraph journalist saying to me that even at that level, they live for views and comments. They are the two things that their sub-editors base their success on a weekly basis. How many people read your articles? How many commented?
No, great. Chris, what about yourself? Anonymity?
Putting aside the people that break the law on defamation and where that level is, which we've discussed in the past, I would say that 95, 96, 7% of comments, which are classed as troll, don't break the law. Is the issue of anonymity as big as what some of my colleagues on this think? Let's be honest, you could put a real name in and fake it if you really wanted to. I think the real point is that we need to put sunlight into the dark places. If someone makes a derogatory comment, you, as Vanessa so eloquently put it away, and Vanessa, you've been head and shoulders above the rest of us put together on this, so absolutely amazing. So thank you for your comments on this.
Thank you.
If we choose to put our head above the parapets, we, I believe, have to take on board what people say. They could be right and reply back with it, and not to try and persuade that other person, but to actually show the thousands of people that watch us that it's not as if we don't care, because if you don't reply back, it looks like you don't care. Now, if somebody makes a comment to you, you can't control them making that comment, but you can control the way it makes you feel. Okay. And I think, I think you just got to kill them with kindness, treat them with respect, pity them if you think that they're in that pace in their life, and don't try and persuade that other one person who is the hater or whatever. Some people don't like that word, but actually just show the rest of the world that you actually do care what someone else says, but not care as in screw you up at night, keep you up at night, and reply back. And
Chris,
yeah,
I think
Vanessa said it's been amazing in what she said in this chat.
I'd love to have the luxury of time that would need to be afforded to look at 50 comments on a Property Industry Eye article. But
then make you
reply to each one, and don't forget, once you reply to one, it then sets them off again on a different tangent. So you reply to their comment, then they reply to your reply, then what? You reply to their reply. Don't forget, you've got 30 or 40 threads going on that day based on what you've said. Completely.
But then what you could do, Russell, is I mean, if you don't mind me saying, Russell, I interviewed you a couple of years ago, and when you actually engaged with me and had that chat, your stock price in my eyes went through the roof, because you are actually genuine, a bloody nice bloke.
You know, I understand the principle, Chris, but look, so if you ask me questions and I respond, that's fine. What I'm saying is, if you write an article every 2 weeks for Property Industry Eye and each one gets 30 to 50 comments, I'm just saying from a practical time perspective, for an individual to sit there then all day going through those comments and replying to them, that's fucking nuts. Excuse me, but there's no way in a million years I'm going to do
I know,
that.
but you said earlier in the chat, Russell, that you go to other social media sites and you answer them there. So you do actually have the time.
No, I didn't.
I've seen you answering comments on Property Industry Eye on Twitter. So you do have the time to answer them there.
What I said was, if there's one that's particularly defamatory and it's brought to my attention, I deal with it. But I do not sit there looking at the comments. And I have separate banter-filled conversations on Twitter, as I do on LinkedIn. And do you know why I have those conversations? Because those people are not anonymous. And therefore, 99 times out of 100, they're less malicious. They're less untrue. I certainly do not read the comments, respond to them, and go to Twitter to respond to them. Show me evidence of that, Vanessa. There isn't any, because I don't do that.
You simply, I mean, look, there's a point here, as you just said, whether it's adulation or negativity. You know, the likes of Tom Panos, I think, who's doing the most out of anyone in an estate agency real estate, can't reply to every single one of the 100 comments, positive or negative, can you? So I don't think you should be held to a false standard on that.
But you can reply to some. I'm not you, Russell. That's just that. Okay, but surely some form of reply back saying, you know, let's say there's 30 people and they're all spouting the same crap. There's nothing stopping. I'm not telling you what to do, Russell, because you're a good friend. You can do what you like. But just almost saying, look, to everyone here, these are the 5 bullet points that you're all saying. Show me your proof. Yeah.
I also don't care enough, Chris. I don't care about 99% of what he said, because as we've all rehearsed on this conversation, most of it is obviously trolling. It's obviously not true. It's malicious. It's pathetic. It's people playing the man, not the ball. So why would I care? All I care about is the very odd occasion when someone says something that is way over the line, that really calls someone's reputation into question, and then that then gets dealt with separately. But that's, I mean, I've done that probably 2 or 3 times over the last 2 or 3 years. I'm certainly not going to sit there looking at every comment and replying to them just to make myself look like a nicer person. I don't care.
You say the word you don't care. I think you should care, but not care for yourself because you've been hurt. You should care for the other person that they've basically in such a dark place that they have to be a.
Oh my God! You want me to be a bloody social worker to the people on Property Industry I comment for them?
No, you should also care for the people that genuinely want to learn. They're the people that matter in all of this activity of trolls. Trolls are in the minority, but they provide a platform for other people to learn and understand somebody's position. That's worth an investment of time. You can set the record straight.
Read the article in the first place. So of course I've written 1,000 words to expound my opinion. So, but I don't think I'm under any moral imperative to then go in and defend ridiculous comments all the way through the rest of the day just to make somebody else feel educated or better off because of it. I just think that's preposterous.
We're not going to change Russell's view at this stage of his life, and I think it's entirely up to Russell, as he said. If he wants to do thought leadership, we don't all have to be empathetic to every single view, do we? Because that's not realistic. The one person we haven't heard on the doyen of this show, as we should title you, Vanessa. What's your opinion just on that anonymity point? Because we hit the hour mark, and I'd just like to make sure we wrap that up with your opinion on it.
Yeah, well, I think it would be great if we could have a couple of minutes to talk about what you can do about trolls, because I feel for anybody that has been trolled, I know what it's like and how horrible it is. I stated earlier I don't have any issue with anonymous commentary, providing that it's substantiated. And what Russell's really talking about is he's broadcasting. Broadcasting is a one-way street. That's fine, nothing wrong with it. But social media, the clue's in the word social. It's a social interaction, debate, discussion, teasing out the issues. That's the whole point of it. Now, anybody that just broadcasts, if that's what they want to do, that's fine. But they're not being social, and they're not entering into the spirit of the whole point of a two-way public domain conversation where everybody can benefit from learning, from clarification, from substantiation. So
but all news is now on social, isn't it, by definition? So again, you know, the BBC, when they put out a news story, or the papers there, there is worth and there is value in the actual story itself. As Russell spent a long time creating these over the course of 2 weeks there. It's absolutely fine for him at that point to cut the umbilical and say, I'm happy for that conversation to rage, and that's what I want to create the conversation. I'm just not going to go down a rabbit hole with it.
I'm not obligated.
Then don't complain about it then.
I'm not. Who's complaining? I said millions of times on this call, Vanessa, that I don't care enough. I don't care about what the trolls say. And by the same nature, if Julia Hartley-Brewer or Nigel Farage write a comment piece, they're not obligated to reply to me either, nor should they be.
No,
I don't agree. I think a news item is different to an opinion piece. A news is something that's factually being reported. You're talking about opinion pieces where other people will not share your opinion and want to discuss it, and perhaps even try and understand how you reach that opinion.
They could write, as some people have, they could write their own opinion piece as a kind of contretemps. I mean, you know, that would be up to Mark De Silva at Property.
I'd be really interested in asking Vanessa a question about the anonymity versus non-anonymity. So we all understand freedom of speech. I think everybody recognises freedom of speech should be allowed, and I think we've all said that anonymity has a place. But we're talking about how would a socially responsible platform deal with an anonymous person who is making defamatory, evil, unnecessary remarks if there is no they don't have to prove who they are to create an anonymous account. I mean, I'm just interested to know, because the problem is, Vanessa, I think you're 100% right, but the trolls hide behind the anonymity. So we don't want as a society to remove people's right to comment anonymously, but we do want the right for people. I would want the right to remove their ability to be scot-free of being a troll anonymously.
Yeah, but you're talking about their behaviour again.
Forget their behaviour. I'm asking how would a platform...
Anybody can be a troll in their own name because it's their behaviour. It's
okay,
not
but if
an anonymous profile.
If it's in their own name, I don't need the platform to get involved, because I can deal with that lawyer to lawyer, or if I'm the person being... I've never really been trolled as far as I know, but if the person is them, if the person is putting themselves out there, I can deal with it. I don't need the help from the platform. But if someone is hiding behind I can't say the word, but they're doing it anonymously, and therefore they're not known to me, but they are doing things that might hurt your character, my anyone on here, anyone that's listening, they're genuinely hurting that business or doing something that's defamatory or not right, but they have had the right to be anonymous in doing it. What should a sensible social platform have in place to help the person that's been wronged in that instance?
Well,
if we're just going to allow...
They should have community standards and terms and conditions of use.
Okay, well, that means they can chuck the anonymous. That means they can chuck the anonymous person off the platform. Get that?
Definitely, their comments should be deleted. That is what a responsible moderator would do in any example of trolling. They would delete the comment.
I get that. Delete the person's account. Delete their comments. But should there be? And I'm just interested in your view. I have a view. You have a view. They're different. Should the platform also then be able to allow the person who's been wronged to take legal action by then going through the background? I'm not saying publicly name who the person is, but then say, right, okay, this account is held by this person. They opened up the account using this. And if you wanted to involve the police, lawyers and everything else, are you saying you don't agree with that, or that you do? Because I was confused by your answer. That's what I'm asking. I'm not challenging it. I agree nearly with everything you said. I just want to understand, if somebody is genuinely wronged by a totally anonymous person, yes, a good moderation would take the comment down, and good moderation would ban the person who typically...
Well, not necessarily, but definitely give them a warning and say you've been...
whatever action they take. They might take... Simon's been banned off Facebook, I think, for a few weeks for silly remarks. But the point is, it can take action. But the person who's been wronged and has had the things that's said about them that have either, that have had a real deep effect on their business or their personal life or their family life, it could just be someone accusing someone of having an affair on a very, very basic level. Anonymity does give that person the right to be able to do that and then get away with it scot-free. And I personally can't believe that's right.
It doesn't, because first of all, for GDPR reasons, the publisher cannot tell you the identity or the email address associated with that account. So legally, they can't tell you. there is a legal mechanism to find out who is behind an account, and it's called a Norwich Pharmacal Order.
Right, so there is recourse. Okay, that's fine. That's all I wanted to know.
But people don't know. A lot of people don't know all, you know, these kind of things. So it's really important to understand.
I feel an article, Vanessa, from you informing us all of this stuff. Because if we all know,
you know, maybe my husband will write something, because he is the sole moderator of Property Tribes, and quite, you know, he is the person that has, you know, set all of these standards, that believes in, you know, all pre-action protocols for defamation. We do not allow defamation on our site. We have, everything has to be substantiated. If it's not substantiated, we contact the person and say, we need this to be substantiated, otherwise your comment will be removed at the end of play today. We do not allow trolling, bullying, harassment, anything. If our community report it, or we see it, my husband will delete it. So because we want to encourage people to post in confidence. If you
and then have a proper open, reasonable debate around the rights and wrongs. Yeah, which we all want. So what I'm saying is, these are the real weapons against the real trolls, because we've got to be careful. There's a lot of people called trolls. They're not. They're just engaging in a bit of banter and a bit of fun. Most of the stuff on let's say Property Industry Eye, it's not really nasty, is it? It's not proper. It's just bored people saying something for the sake of saying it, I think.
We could go on for hours here, but let's wrap up with that, as Vanessa highlighted there. Actual tangible advice for people who are experiencing trolling. So first and foremost, I think we've agreed there that there needs to be recourse and strong moderation. That's an obvious one from the community in general, isn't there? Have you got anything else, Vanessa? I mean, you've spoke a number of times about inform and challenge, haven't you? But done in a
I mean, you know, my response to a troll is to fact check their lies, or to ask them for clarification. So you know, somebody says you did this, this and this, I'll say, well, actually, no, that's not true at all. I'd like to see your evidence of where you believe I've done this. And 9 times out of 10, you'll never hear from them again. Now, they may, if they are genuinely interested in learning, they may come back and provide a link to something, you know, that they perhaps misunderstood. 9 times out of 10, when people challenge me and say, you've done this, they actually provide evidence of me being trolled by other people. Now, I want the chance to set the record straight and say, this person was actually trolling me with their lies. Not that I'd done what they said I'd done to them. So, you know, trolls cannot exist in transparency. They cannot exist where you demand substantiation. So my number one thing is to fact check them. And don't get personal, don't get riled. Just say 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the facts. Here's my evidence to support my side of the story. Aside of that, you can report them to the moderator and ask for their comment to be removed. Aside from that, you can, in some cases like Facebook, you can block them and just don't be exposed to their nonsense. But my personal strategy is to fact check them.
Blocking is fine, but I think the one thing I always get worried about there is you end up in your own echo chamber in Twitter or Facebook, don't you, listening to yourselves. But then again, we're talking about trolls and who wants to be in any sort of chamber with those people. So thank you, Chris. Yourself, what would be your best advice to, as you said, many agents looking at this who are worried about getting exposed to this kind of behaviour?
Kill them with kindness. Put sunlight on it. Stop craving positive love and affirmation from people, and so when you do get something negative, it doesn't screw you up, and just, you know, if you're going to put yourself out there, expect it, and you know, there's no right not to be offended. And I don't mind me saying, I think Vanessa, I mean, don't get me wrong, Ian Russell, you've been exceptional, but Vanessa, this has been one of the very best webinars I've ever been on for an awful long time. So thank you for your input.
Thank you. Well, that means a lot coming from you, Chris. I really appreciate your feedback, because my knowledge of this topic has been honed through more abuse of myself than you can ever imagine. And I want to share that and assist other people from having to deal with the emotional stress that this kind of activity has caused myself, my husband, and indeed our business. So, you know, I'm sharing because I'm hoping that people can take something away from this. And if anybody's watching this and has been affected by trolling, you're very welcome to reach out to me, and I would happily share some advice with you to help you get through it, because it can be extremely upsetting. And when people get personal and tell terrible lies about you, you know, and you feel that you can't fight it, it really does, you know, cause distress. And I don't want other people to go through that. And there's absolutely no need for them to, if they, you know, if sites moderate responsibly and you deal with trolls in the manner that I have suggested, because it's worked for me.
I had to look at Vanessa before I came on, because I do 2 minutes research before every show, and I looked at what the opposite was of a troll, and apparently it's a pixie. So it strikes me you could be the property pixie here, helping people deal with this whole troll community that's out there. So
well, I'll probably get trolled for doing so.
Well, look, it's the name of the game, isn't it? That's why that was kind of what we're about. We'll finish up with Ian and then Russell. Ian, any advice? Just go with
I would have a clear social media policy, and based on this conversation, I would get the expert help of people like Vanessa in writing that, so that you know how to respond and you've got a set of triggers to deal with. The, you know, 99% of what you do on social media is not going to attract a problem, but when the problem comes, be empowered with the advice that you get from people like Vanessa, that clearly understands the legal process and all the tools open to you to deal with it, and is giving clear and sensible advice on how to deal with it, which is, don't be silent, which has been I have to be honest, I've learned here that perhaps don't be silent. On the odd occasion where I haven't been silent, I've definitely got myself embroiled in something I've looked back on and thought, I'm not proud of some of that. You know, and I really ought to have just been big enough to either walk away or whatever. But actually, what I need to do is just call them out and say, okay, well, prove it, please, because here's the actual facts. But maybe Vanessa can help people in some sort of, you know, that I can feel a sort of a new job, a new strand to Vanessa's business, to be able to provide guidance and advice to people on their social media policy. But have a policy, speak to the experts, and just, if you get a problem, use your policy. Let your policy back you up.
Cheers, Ian. I think I wanted to just read this one out here before we come to Russell. I think it's fair to say me and Russell could not be more diametrically opposed on pretty much every issue under the sun, but I do find myself actually cozying up to your way of thinking over the course of this, Russell. If I care to listen to every criticism, let alone act on them, then this shop may as well be closed for all other businesses. I've learned to do my best, and if the end result is good, then I do not care for any criticism. But if the end result is not good, then even the praise of 10 angels would not make the difference. Abraham Lincoln / Russell Quirk. You made some great comments today, Dan. Sorry, that was the first one I read. But Russell, over to you as the man who occupies a certain niche within this industry.
I think, look, maybe as we speak, I probably get a bit more stick than most of the other people on this panel. So, you know, I get a lot of stick, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on LinkedIn, or particularly property industry or an estate agent today. And I genuinely think you've just got to give less of a shit. I mean, honestly, if you start disappearing down rabbit holes, trying to argue and defend and contend and fact check, I think it's all bollocks. I just don't buy that, because you wind yourself up more and more and more. The more you disappear down that rabbit hole, you know, just take it for what it is, particularly from the anonymous trolls. It's guff, it's banter, some of it. The nasty stuff, the stuff that is really horrible and defamatory, that then will find its way to you, as it does to me, and then you deal with it legally. And honestly, that stuff then dissolves. When you get an apology from the branch manager at Sequence that said X, Y, Z, then you leave it, of course. And guess what? He's never going to troll you again. But to sit there looking at comments and responding to them all day, that's just, honestly, to me, that's just a pointless endeavour that actually makes the whole thing much, much worse. Ignore it.
Water off a duck's back is the social media advice there. Yeah, I get it. Look, guys, I want to say thanks.
Non-social media, then.
Yes, exactly. Well, and like society, though, it's just a reflection of it, isn't it? It's on social here. I want to say thank you to you guys. It's been an absolute eye-opener. Definitely not having you back on, Vanessa, because you've bossed it and taken away any attention to me. So that can never be tolerated on a kerfuffle broadcast. No, I want to say it's been amazing to have your input in terms of obviously living and preaching what you do in your property tribes. Everyone should go and have a look there. But guys, thank you very much. Do not suffer in silence, people. I'm sure everyone here reach out to us if you are suffering from any of these people here, and I think get your friends to call them out as much as anything. I always found having some advocates at any business you are who can drown out those trolls is a really effective tool from my own point of view anyway. Guys, Vanessa, Ian, Chris and Russell, thank you and have a fantastic week.
Thank you, guys.
you.
Be good.
Hold on.